All things triple header, both days in April, isn't it?
It's going down, Kay.
It is.
What a wonderful time to be alive.
Peter Schrager, Kyle Brandt, all here. And let's bring in Ian Rappaport now, starting with him with some insider information on the Browns, who got hit with some tough news yesterday. They're back in the playoffs for the first time since 2002, and now COVID-19 has struck.
Yeah, yesterday the Browns closed their facility due to COVID-19 concerns. Several positive tests, including Coach Kevin Stefanski, who is now out for their game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. First time in almost 2 decades the Browns make the playoffs. They don't even have their coach. 2020 still is alive and well despite it being 2021. But anyway, the Browns facility right now is still closed. Not saying it is going to remain closed throughout the day, but that is where it stands right now. As far as the Browns coaching staff with no Stefanski, Mike Prefer, the really respected special teams coach, longtime special teams coach in the NFL. He is the interim coach. Alex Van Pelt, the offensive coordinator. He is now the play caller. And it wasn't just limited to the coaches. It was also players too. Joe Bitonio, who got the game ball last week because the Browns finally made the playoffs, and he is such a long-time respected member of the Browns. He is out due to COVID-19. Kadero Hodge, the receiver, as well, still going through contact tracing, still trying to figure out where they stand. But that is the news from yesterday and for the Browns going forward, not what anyone wanted going into the playoffs.
And the unfortunate reality is that this thing can get worse before it gets better. So we, of course, will keep our eyes right here on NFL Network and listen to you, Ian Rappaport. Hopefully that's not the case, though. They'll be missing Kevin Stefanski. But we are still rooting for those Browns against the Steelers to wrap up a wild card weekend. Let's head up to Buffalo, guys. The number 2 seeded Bills are hosting the 7 seed, the Colts, an 11-win team. Our very own Kim Jones has the latest on the first matchup of Super Wild Card Weekend.
As the Bills begin what they hope is a long playoff run, beginning Saturday at home against the Colts, it's worth taking a look back to a year ago when the Bills made the playoffs and went to Houston. They led the Texans 16-0 before ultimately losing in overtime 22-19. When you listen to Josh Allen these days, it's pretty clear that the memories of that loss linger, but also have provided lessons.
It still lingers a little bit, just knowing the situation of the game and things I could have done differently and reads I could have changed. But again, like I said, I wouldn't. Like I said, if I could change it, I obviously would. But I'm glad I can't. I'm glad the lessons that I've learned throughout that game and, really throughout the 3 years that I've been playing so far. And, without failure, people don't know success. So, again, we gotta find ways to put our best foot forward on Saturday and try to go get a victory.
The Bills' defense really started to flex its muscles in Week 7. Since then, they've been a top 10 defense in this league by every measure. And this one's important. Since that Week 7, they have 19 takeaways, which ranks 4th in the league. It's a defense that will make you pay.
The Colts defense isn't a walk in the park or a picnic either, Kim, and that's the matchup. The Colts visiting the Buffalo Bills. The Bills hosting their first playoff game since 1996. Nate, I'm looking at those highlights from that 2019 game. It looks like a completely different team, especially with an addition named Stephon Diggs.
No doubt. Completely different team, completely different energy, just a different vibe in Buffalo. And it starts with Stephon Diggs. And yesterday you said that Brandon Beane was the GM of the year, I believe, because mainly this trade right here, it changed everything. It not only changed Stephon Diggs' career, who is now looked at as the best receiver in the game, hands down because of stats, but then also it changed Josh Allen. It gave you a guy that you can lean on consistently, and that's what this team is. They're consistent. Yeah, they had a couple bumps in the road, made some mistakes throughout the year. This team is hotter than any team I've seen going into the playoffs in a long time, and that's the reason why there isn't going to be this drop-off or even some parallels to what happened in the past in the playoffs. This is a completely new squad. I said it yesterday. There's a couple of squads that are going to be in the playoffs, and they're going to remind us of exactly what we thought they were. Then there's teams that are going to shock us. Yeah. And I believe the Buffalo Bills will shock us. This is the beginning of a new era
kind of
and it starts in the playoffs.
I mean, we talk about them a lot. You think it's surprising because they're going to be even better than we expect?
I do. I believe so. I said that they are more confident than they already were. And I thought before Week 17 that these guys, they're riding high. But then you end the season like that, McDermott making a decision, you know what? Forget resting our guys. And I think it was a game time decision because when they were warming up, I was sitting on the CBS set, pull back the curtain a little bit. I saw the backup quarterbacks out there. Josh Allen came out late. And as a football player, I'm like, oh, Josh isn't playing today. No. Josh played and he played well. Now think about that team. They got guys like Isaiah McKenzie stepping up, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
They got backups that are more confident than the starters they're going to face. So for me, this team right here is going to shock us. And by that, I mean, this could be what all the Buffalo Bills fans are waiting on, a Super Bowl team.
Good for you, Nate, because this is what we do, right? We take these incredible teams, 13-3, haven't won by less than 4 touchdowns in a month, and we poke. We poke holes. You know what I'm saying? Maybe the jitters, maybe it's going to be too big for them. It's just what we do this week. But I'm not here for it with this team. Other team, sure. Buffalo, now it's going to be a little nuts. They're going to be home. They're going to have fans for the first time at home all season. Not a ton, but real fans, real stakes. And this alleged idea that, oh my God, if they lose this game, what a disappointment. I'm not here for it for a second. A couple of reasons. Josh Allen, we used to talk openly on the show. I did it the most about how he was just nervous and jittery and his adrenaline would get the most of him. And I think it's
Sugar high Josh.
Sugar high Josh Allen. He would hit the fun dip and he just couldn't control his body like a 6-year-old. I haven't seen that guy, not in weeks, in months we haven't seen him. He seems like the steadiest hand this side of Aaron Rodgers. Also, understand, this is a playoff-tested roster. They got guys on this team who have not just been in playoff games, who have won playoff games. Cole Beasley, Micah Hyde, Josh Norman's been to a Super Bowl. Stephon Diggs made arguably the most clutch playoff play in history. Say what you want about Buffalo, and we can throw out the 90s all we want. None of those guys were here. Nothing this weekend has anything to bleeping do with Jim Kelly or Andre Reed or Thurman Thomas losing his helmet. That was 30 years ago. It has nothing to do with this. This is totally new, totally loose, and I don't think this team has it. If this team's pulse was going to bounce, we would have seen it a few weeks back. It hasn't. All they've done is crush everybody. But we poke.
We love to poke.
We poke at them. You want to poke at them?
I poked at them last year in the playoffs. I said, let's see what happens in the playoffs here. It's one thing to win a big Sunday night game in Pittsburgh. The playoffs are a different story. They got up 16-0, and we poked, and they fell apart. That 16-0 collapse last year was not just a typical comeback. The Bills imploded. Yeah. There were some horrible plays.
That's a perfect word for it.
Weird laterals. Like, they gave the game away to Houston. Houston didn't even want to win that game. Buffalo gave it to them. So this year we come into it, it's like, oh, here we go, the Josh Allen thing again. All right, it's Josh Allen. And then Josh Allen was amazing. And this team was incredible. And I'll go back just 2 weeks ago. They go into Foxborough for a Monday night game, and it could have very easily been one of these where, all right, the ghosts of Foxborough, the Patriots, they could beat us.
Belichick's masterpiece.
We're not going to let Buffalo sweep us. The Bills waxed the floor with them. It was maybe the biggest blowout that we have seen this season, and it was only followed by a blowout of a Miami Dolphins team that needed everything to get in. Their foot is so put on the pedal right now that I don't know if any team in the NFL is beating them this weekend. I don't care if the Chiefs were coming into Buffalo. I don't care if the Packers were coming into Buffalo.
Talk about it.
This team is so dialed in, so locked in, and then you add in 7,000 fans.
Yeah.
Okay? The feeling that these fans, this is the greatest line, I love it, and I said it last week. These fans have never seen Stephon Diggs play in person, ever. These home fans. And then the response is, Stephon Diggs has never seen the Bills fans.
Yeah.
Just imagine the energy that this
7,000 Bills fans, they're like 50,000 fans.
No doubt.
It's like the 300 Spartans.
It honestly is. They're 300.
Right.
And Xerxes ain't bleeding, you know? It's like that kind of
We will play in the shade.
I think this team is so dialed in. Colts are a good team. That's going to be a battle, but the Bills will not have the jitters. They're not going to be nervous about the playoffs. They've been through too much.
And they did have the jitters. It's almost like they got it all out of their system. Remember that lateral?
Ridiculous.
Like, we watched that back and we were like, what just
play.
happened? I feel like they needed to have that experience. Josh Allen saying it was very important to them. And now let's see what they can do. You know, in that game, that playoff game, the one we just showed highlights to, Devin Singletary was their leading receiver. In that game. There were points in that. They got the ball back in overtime of that game, and there wasn't that guy to throw the ball to and trust to make a play. Well, Stephon Diggs is that guy. Ian Rappaport is here now joining us again, suited and booted, ready to go, our E-Insider. We heard some news about the Texans last night. Their front office making moves, making some changes, not really changes, but trying to fill some holes there. What is the latest?
Yeah, a big move for the Houston Texans, hiring former Patriots Director of Player Personnel Nick Caserio, really one of the top general manager candidates for the last several years. He has been very picky. He's been very choosy. Hasn't entertained a lot of situations. Wanted to make sure it was the right one. And clearly, Caserio, who was hired last night after reaching an agreement late last night with Houston Texans as the new general manager, clearly believed this was the right opportunity, both because of the organization, the opportunities, I think having Deshaun Watson as quarterback probably makes this a little more attractive than it might have been. And he gets to pick the coach. And now as he sets out on his responsibilities and goals for the Houston Texans, that is the main thing. Who is